Hey guys, how are you? Gonna wait just a minute to see if anyone pops on. Happy Friday. Excited, there's a notification that I am on. I'm actually like super pumped for this Facebook Live, YouTube Live. I'm kind of repurposing this, and also you'll be getting it in a blog post as well, and also your email. Because I want to tell you that I have, hey Marisol, nice to see you. So I started just a little bit early because I have a lot to say today, and I always have to limit this to about 20-25 minutes because we don't want to go on for hours and hours. You all are very busy, but I'm just really excited today about speaking. Not excited because it's actually like some people are like just so frustrated when it comes to growing their business. But what I'm excited about is that, first of all, it's not entirely your fault. And let me talk about what I mean. And we're not going to talk about strategies you should be doing or things that you should be applying in your business. These are going to be, this is deeper, because as a person that happy Friday, as a business owner, I study people, okay? I study people and I acquire knowledge, and then I make my assessments. And I can safely say, I think I've actually become, I should have had a psychology degree, because I've dealt with thousands and thousands of mostly women. Hey, Alicia, welcome. So I've dealt with thousands and thousands of women, mostly women, some men, because they bring in their spouses, and I dress them. So they are basically practically naked in front of me. So as a fashion designer, okay, so I have heard, you can't even imagine the stories that I hear. You cannot, I don't think a psychiatrist could hear the stories that I hear, because I'm dealing with mass quantities of people. So what I realize is that the more stories I hear, the more they're all the same, just kind of like in a different time, or some are a little more extreme than the other. But there's like this root cause of what's keeping people stuck. And, you know, I'm not sitting there on my bench saying, oh, I've never been stuck, I've never had a problem. No, absolutely. That is not that at all. I just have learned how to overcome anxiety, how to deal with fear, how to have peace in the trial. And that comes from studying people. And of course, I'm not ashamed to tell you, studying the word. Like this one's called the Adventure Bible. How cool is that? Because our lives should be adventure, you know? So this is deeper than just, why are you not moving forward in your Etsy shop or your business? This goes deeper, because those are Band-Aids when you're like, oh, you come up with an excuse or whatever. They're all Band-Aids for a deeper cause. Now, again, I'm not talking about like, if you're at a moment in time where some tragedy has happened to you and you literally had to take off from your business because something as tragic happened in your life. We're not talking about that. We're talking about, you're going about life and you're trying things. Now give me a yes or a thumbs up if you're trying things and you're just like, no, not going anywhere. You feel so frustrated and you're trying to get answers and you have all this information. I mean, I know I've been there before. And even entering my coaching business, I encountered fear of, not being good enough, all that stuff. So I want to talk about 3 things right now that are probably on the top of the list of things that are stopping you from moving forward in your business. Now, there are many others, but again, when I talk to my students and I talk to my clients in my fashion design business and in my courses, it's always the same underlying theme. So the first thing is fear. I know this is like, oh, well, this is not new, but let's go ahead and dive a little bit deeper into fear. So I actually have some things written down because I didn't want to leave anything out. So I hear it's a common thread, just fear. There's so much fear circulating around. It's like insane. And I could say this, like I say, I deal with thousands of women, and there's very few people that have experienced that I see like this true peace, this true like joy in their life. And I'm like sick of it. I am ready to go full force to show you all how to have a peaceful, joyful, purposeful life. And it's not just like going and waiting for it to come and thinking it into existence. It's not just that. There's a lot of deep-rooted things that are stopping you. So fear, and what happens when we are fearful, then there's another reaction, because we know that our thoughts shape our feelings, shape our actions, shape our results. So the first thing that I have here is that your fear of that your work is not perfect enough to put out to the world. And, this is just such a lie. It's such a lie, because when you feel like you have to constantly perfecting before you even put it out, you're never going to get even feedback to see if it's already perfect. So you're just already wasting all this time instead of putting it out to the world, getting feedback, taking that negative feedback and growing from there. Okay? So it's such a self-limiting belief. And no matter how high in the coaching world that you go, if you work with masterminds that are paying thousands and thousands of dollars, they all will tell you the same thing. If you don't start putting your work out into the world, you're never going to get anywhere. Even the top people in the world that are giving you this advice are telling you the same thing, that you got to put stuff out for it to come back. So if you're just hoarding you to just be perfect in the perfect logo and the perfect color, whatever it is, the perfect team, you're going to hinder your growth. It's like, that's like such a big fallacy. And I know we've all been there. I remember when there was like a time, I think my logo, I redid it over the years, the same logo like 10 times, because I'm like, well, maybe it's the logo why my sales are slow. And it's not that. It's not that at all. Okay, nothing wrong with rebranding, by the way, but it's not the shape of your logo or the shade of your page, of your landing page. These things, yes, can be improved, but it's not what is causing you to not move. It's causing you to not moving forward because you're getting stuck. So the second fear is you'll be wasting your time. So some people, and again, these are like all excuses. These are all things that we put in our head, we fill in our minds that are not true. So if I try this and I put all this energy into this course or this Etsy shop or this business, and nothing happens, I just wasted a year of time. So how can you look at this if, let's say, you aren't so successful, or instead of looking at it as like, wow, I wasted a year of time, you can turn that around and say, wow, I really learned how not to do my next Etsy shop, or I really learned, wow, I learned how to communicate with my customers, or I learned more about myself. So instead of just saying, wow, I just wasted a year, how about gaining a year of knowledge of what you shouldn't be doing, okay? So everything's about perspective. So the next fear is fear of learning new skills. I get emails of people telling me how they're so afraid of the tech. They're afraid of new things. They're afraid of going from, one business to more of a techie business, or even on Etsy where, there is tech involved, but it's not so advanced that you can't do it. There's people that can't even open their computer. So this is a real fear. But how do you overcome that? Simply by action, simply by opening up that computer and starting to take action, okay? Action will crush fear every time. So the more that you realize, it might take you a little slower than someone, and that's where the beating yourself up comes in. Well, she did that so fast, and that's why you can't compare yourself to anybody else. Okay, and I'm going through these. We could talk about each one like probably for hours, but we're going to go through this because I have 3 things here, and we're already at a few minutes in. Okay, imposter syndrome. If you have not heard of imposter syndrome, that's when you're actually telling yourself, well, who am I to do this? Like, who am I? Like, who do I think I am? That's called imposter syndrome, where you actually feel like you're an imposter. You're an imposter. And that stops you because you feel that, you're actually not who you say you are. And again, what if your information that is way higher, or your product is something that someone was looking for, and because you didn't give it out to the world because you felt, look, who am I to do this, or who am I to charge this much money for this product? That person didn't get the joy of receiving your product. So don't feel that way. There's always room for improvement, but you don't have to feel like an imposter when you're doing something from your soul and that you love. You know what I'm saying? Like, does this make sense to you guys? So many people just feel like they're imposters in their own body. So that is a self-limiting belief. Again, fear. The next one is it's not going to work. Okay, and this is a negative self-talking, self-sabotaging fear that, what you do just never works. This is a negative thought pattern, a belief pattern that you may have come up with, or someone have told you in the past that, what you do, it's never going to work. And how do you know until you try? It's as simple as that. And you can make yourself, and you could self-sabotage yourself into it not working. So this is why I'm talking about like this emotional connection to your business. And you've got to do like personal development when it comes to being successful in business, because they are so closely related. Business and your personal development are like this. I personally think if you're not trying to develop personally, you can only go so far in your business. There will be such roadblocks for you that you will never be able to overcome. So that's why you've got to have, a balance of personal development with your business growth. Okay. So the next thing is that you'll fail. Of course, this is a huge self-limiting and fearful thought. And welcome, Patty. So this is such a huge a self-sabotaging, self-limiting belief that you're going to fail. Okay. But if I can tell you, I tell my students, failure is a necessary component to success. If I can tell you the thousands probably of times I've failed, I don't call it failure because I know if I'm failing, I'm one step closer to the answer, right? So if failure is a necessary part of success, then why do we cringe at failure? Please tell me that. Does anyone have an answer for me? Type it in because I want to know. It's not that we are a failure. It's what we're doing at that moment might not work. But the only time you fail is when you never even start, or when you want to do something and you never get moving. Okay, so that's another fear that we have. Fear of success. Whoa. Did you know how could someone be afraid of success? Well, let's say I'm going to give you an analogy. Let's say you go to the same restaurant. It's right around the corner. You only have to drive 5 minutes, and it's very comfortable. You get the same thing. You have the same waitress, and it's just super comfortable. Well, then all of a sudden your place gets torn down, and you have to drive 10 miles to go to another restaurant. And all of a sudden you're like all anxious because you got to drive, and it's all new, and it's all this whole experience. And then all of a sudden you're like, wow, this is amazing. I can't believe I missed out on that, because you were stuck in your small thinking of, I want to be comfortable in my little place, in my comfortable, nothing wrong with comfort. Again, I'm not bashing these things. I'm just trying to open your mind. Sometimes we get too comfortable. So then all of a sudden we're like, success. Well, what does that look like? I'm going to have to change up, watching my, maybe it's like working a little harder. So I'm going to have to change watching all my soap operas, or I'm going to have to change like doing things that I just really am comfortable doing. Well, yeah, in order to grow, you've got to change it up. So there could be a fear hindering you and self-sabotaging you. You're sabotaging you because you're afraid of actual success. Or maybe someone in your past told you will never be successful. So it's stuck all the way down deep into your psyche, if you know what I'm talking about. Fear of anxiety. This one was big for me. I have actually overcome severe anxiety. not through medication, not through anything else, but actually understanding who God says about, what God says about me, and completely trusting him. My anxiety is gone. I'm not saying I don't have anxious moments, but I used to not even want to fly in a plane because my heart would start beating so fast and racing that the fear and the panic attacks would happen. So I literally for years went on life. Now I was strong enough to say, okay, I'm not going to use medication for me. I'm not saying medication is bad, but for me as a crutch, I'm going to overcome this. So every time I came to the situation, it would be like days of anxiety. So I actually became fearful of the anxiety. So like I felt an anxious feeling, and then all of a sudden I went to a full-blown panic attack because I became afraid of the anxiety. So some people, when you're trying something new, you're starting to feel anxious because there's a lot of stuff going on, and you just run away because you don't want to face that anxiety and those anxious feelings. And I can definitely get a thumbs up if anyone has felt this before. I can relate with you. I am there with you, but I'm here to tell you it can be overcome. And that's like a really cool thing, that all these things and these problems can all be solved. They can be overcome. Okay, afraid that you won't be seen. Wow, that no one's going to see you. No one's going to pay attention to you. No one's going to really care. I mean, that's like, how horrible is that you're trying something and you're not getting support from anybody. But you know what I say to that? I say, why do you need everybody else's approval about what you know in your heart is your calling, what God says about you, which is you're made imperfectly perfect, because we are born in sin, and that's just, our sin nature, but we are perfect in God's eyes. So if we can just understand that God, like seriously, it's us and God in the long, and just, I mean, yes, we got our families and everything, but really it's us and God. Okay. So don't worry. Even, I know people that are criticized by their spouses, their children. Just be confident in who you are. Develop that confidence because you know what you're doing is in line with God's purpose for your life. Okay. And then the last one, and there are more, but I have that fear you're going to be criticized. And that we talked about that just a second ago. But how many of you have been just criticized your whole life that, you're not this enough, that enough, young enough, old enough, thin enough, fat enough, whatever it is. We could criticize no matter what we do, no matter what, what political party we choose. We're constantly being criticized. So you're afraid of getting that backlash and that criticism of, oh, look at her. Now I've heard this before. Look at, she's doing a new business. Look at her trying again. And I'm like, yeah, because that's what entrepreneurs do. We pick ourselves up and we keep going. And that's why not a lot of people can actually be true entrepreneurs. Okay. So I want you guys to take these things, what I'm saying today, and realize it's totally normal. All these things, all the women I've spoken to and the men over the years, all my students, it's all the same. We all have them. So once you can acknowledge that, can you understand that's just part of life? Move through all these things, and don't be so hard on yourself. Okay, you got a lot to offer this world, and you just gotta man, I'm going for it. Okay, so the second most common reason, and this is what I see, and they're all interrelated one way or another, is that we're in a society and we're in a time right now that we are just overwhelmed, and we are, wait, let me read my notes here. Distracted, yeah. Overwhelmed and distracted. So maybe you don't have fear. Maybe you're one of the few that have kind of conquered your fears and you're like, I'm ready. I'm not fearful. Well, if you're not moving forward where you want to be, you're probably overwhelmed or distracted. And that takes a skill of mastering how to not become overwhelmed and distracted. And that takes personal growth, like we talked about. So if you're overwhelmed, it's because you need to start, thinking about that realize there's tons of information out there, tons of knowledge. So how are you going to like learn and grow at the same time? Because I'm constantly a student. I am a student. I'm taking courses all the time. I'm bettering myself. I'm reading. But I also have times where I do that. Most of the day, I'm implementing what my dreams are. And then part of the day is learning. So you've got to like, I think most people are probably learning 80% and then only implementing 10%, 20%. It should be the other way around. You should be implementing 80%, learning 20% or whatever your actual, ratio is. This way, this will stop the overwhelm, okay? So when you can say, you know what, I really want to learn so much, but you only have so much time in a day and energy, you'll learn more by implementing in most cases than you will just by reading what you need to do, okay? Because there's a learning curve involved when you learn. So when it comes to distraction, you've got to really be focused on what's distracting you. You have to be aware of what's distracting you, and then you need to eliminate it. If it's social media, I don't even scroll through Facebook just for like, just to get like the whatever or something for the day. If it's not like elevating me personally, of course, if my, my new niece, who's adorable, if she pops up, I'm going to stop for a second, but I'm not sitting there scrolling for hours and reading everything. I mean, what a waste of time, man. You got to make a decision. Okay. Again, this is not if you already have your established business and you have leveraged your business and you're like, in a different place. But I'm talking about the people who are like in that growth phase. We're not talking about people that have, created their life where they've automated it, they've leveraged it, and they can scroll on Facebook if they want because they've done the work. So that's the second thing. So you've really got to be really conscious about how to eliminate these distractions, okay? Because it's not your fault. You're being bombarded. So be the smart one to eliminate the distractions. Okay, so the last one, which I know you have probably not, maybe you have, but I don't think so. And I was gonna try to get on to, I don't know how to share my screen. I don't know why. Elizabeth, hey, you've gotta watch this replay. So the last thing is called the Dunning-Kruger effect. Have you guys heard of this? Give me a yes or no. Dunning-Kruger effect. And I'm going to show it to you in a second. And it's what I believe the third reason why you're not moving forward in your business. Okay, so what that is it's a cognitive bias. And I have the definition, want the definition. When you are essentially blinded. Okay, Patty hasn't heard of it. Blinded by your own perception of your abilities. Okay, it's really cool, and I think you're going to have an aha moment. So this right here, I want you to be like, wow, I get this. Okay, can you guys see that? Yes, I think you can. Okay, so whenever right here, this side of hold on a second. I don't have my glasses on. Okay, so right here on the axis is confidence and competence. Okay, you can go look it up. It's Dunning-Kruger effect. In essence, you don't know what you don't know. So I'm going to put this up a little closer. So if you see over here, this is like ignorance. Like you don't know what you don't know. Like let's say you don't know what's to be like an astronaut. You've no, so you don't you're not fearful of it. It's just like there, you're like, okay. But then as soon as you get a little knowledge, all of a sudden you jump up to here, which is your confidence level. You're like, oh wow, I'm on Etsy. I know Etsy. I can do this. My confidence is up. But then all of a sudden there's this slow decline when you realize you really don't know anything, okay? It's called the Valley of Despair. Okay, now when you see this is kind of a modified chart, but right here, you're like, man, this isn't working. You're studying, you're doing all your stuff and nothing's working and you just get you have this valley of despair. So what happens is most people, they go right back to here, they try something new, they get a confidence, and then they realize it's not working, or they haven't mastered it, they get despair, and then they go back again. So do you see, most people get stuck right here, okay? Now, when you can break through this valley of despair, as they call it, all of a sudden, you're going to grow. You're going to keep, you're going to get your confidence back because you're like, okay, I'm going to tackle this. I'm going to handle this. This is going to happen. And then all of a sudden, something happens. But look at the curve. It's starting to go upward slope. So your learning curve is going up, up, up. And if you can handle these little ups and downs of your learning, all of a sudden, you're going to be at the top of your confidence level, and things start to smooth out. Like for me on Etsy, when I started, I didn't know what I was doing 4 years ago now. Even though as a fashion designer, I didn't know the Etsy platform. I didn't know anything about Etsy. I didn't know SEO, but I stuck with it. And now I can say I'm kind of, I'm a top 1% Etsy seller. I'm kind of here, but I could have quit when all of a sudden, my first 3 listings didn't work. My photos were horrible. I had to figure out what to do. So I stuck through this curve. So if you want to accomplish anything in life, most people, remember, are going to go through this cycle their whole life. And they keep going through that cycle over and over and over again. It's the ones that break through this and realize that there are going to be those struggles and those downfalls. And then all of a sudden, they realize, when I look at Etsy now, I don't even read my reviews now because I know they're all going to be good. 3,000 5-star reviews. If I get 1-star review, do you think I'm worried about my business? Because I've mastered that part of my business. So I hope this was totally eye-opening for you guys. Now that it's charted out and you're like, I'm not any different than anyone else. When I beat myself up, it's just because of the Dunning-Kruger effect, okay? So what I want you to understand, we're going to hang up in a second, is that we're all the same. It's the ones that can break through all these things we talked about today are the ones that are going to see growth in their business like they've never, ever even imagined. And it starts with that personal development, believing that you are here for a purpose, that God created you for a purpose. And those voices in your head, drown them out. Drown them out. Okay, so that is it. I'm going to hang up in a second. I will take a question if you have a question. Have you had any eye-opening, oh, wow, yeah, that was kind of interesting? Are you a little bit more comfortable now that maybe if you're not where you're at, where you need to go? Thumbs up, anything? Just go through my comments here. No? Okay. Well, maybe I was just excited about this, but I thought it was pretty good. Well, I hope you guys did get a lot of value out of this. Okay, there's my thumbs up. Okay, I just want to make sure, I always want to provide value for you guys. I'm not here to waste your time. Too many people waste people's time. I'm here for value. And I got 2 big thumbs up from Patty. I'm not here to waste your time. I'm here to help you, okay? So use all those things, rewatch this if you need to, and give yourself a pat on the back for doing so awesome. All right, I'm gonna hang up and I will see you guys next week. I think I'm gonna be popping on Monday for something else. Leave your questions also. If you have any questions, you can also comment or leave them at support@businesschicmama.com. All right, guys, be awesome today.